Jr. I'm Anthony Wiggs. I'm Chairman and CEO of SETI CASE. SETI CASE is a nonprofit macroeconomic development and public policy think tank providing critical research and development and strategic planning. I also serve in my official appointment by the governor as the Special Economic Envoy Ambassador to Taiwan and the Asian Pacific region. Our Cinco Heritage House Development Company and the Caribbean Food Network units have teamed up with the Governor's Office, Department of Planning and Natural Resources, Division of Library, Archives, and Museum, also known as DLAM, to co-host today's event. This evening we will learn, contemplate, and celebrate our special place and contribution in the founding and the genesis of the United States of America by Alexander Hamilton and our designation as a National Heritage Area by former President Joe Biden. Alexander Hamilton's legacy centers on our foundational role as the architect of the U.S. financial and administrative state. As the first Treasury Secretary, he established national credit, created a centralized banking system, and promoted industrialization. His advocacy for a strong federal government and implied constitutional powers shaped by modern America and governance. I want to be able to call up to the podium my partner. We're in her house. Amy, I want to thank you for allowing us to be able to partner together and host this event. And tonight, if you can, before I continue, I want you to just tell folks who you are, and we'll continue the program.
Where did it go? Hold that for a second. There we go. Sorry. Good night. I'm Amy Parker DeSorbo, your Territorial Director of Libraries, Archives, and Museums under the Planning and Natural Resources. We welcome tonight our Governor, Albert Bryan Jr., members of the 36th Legislature present, Honorable Commissioner of DP&R, Jean-Pierre L. Auriel, and other members of the Governor's Cabinet present, DLAM's partner, SETI CASE, and the Caribbean Food Network. Our public library patrons, community members, a big welcome. On behalf of the Department of Planning and Natural Resources and the Division of Libraries, Archives, and Museums, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Florence Williams Public Library, your library. We thank you for joining us for this special program as we begin recognizing the upcoming 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States through uniquely a Crucian perspective. Tonight's, oops, there it goes. Sorry, I couldn't print this, I apologize. And we lost it. Anthony, we're gonna start with Hamilton. If you could just start reading that and then I'll jump in.
Absolutely. All right, so hopefully you were able to capture the QR code, and the QR code tells you the program, so hopefully you got that. I need my glasses, can't see.
Neither one of us can.
All right, so when you think of a country, the largest, most powerful economy in the world, and think for 1 second, how is it possible that America would not be America today, modern America, without Alexander Hamilton? Think about that for a second. The key pillars of his legacy: architect of American capitalism. As the first Secretary of Treasury, Hamilton consolidated state debts into a national debt, established national credit, and founded the first bank of the United States. He's also the founder of Bank of New York, which is now Bank of New York Mellon. When you think of some of the other accomplishments, laying the groundwork for modern global economic powerhouse, Federalist paper, think for a second, as a country, there was one single paper that helped shape the United States Constitution. It's called the Federalist paper. He wrote the majority of these foundational essays which remain the definitive interpretation of the United States Constitution and a cornerstone of American political theory. Also, judicial review. He advocated strongly for an independent judiciary that holds the power of judicial review, the authority to invalidate laws that are contrary to the Constitution. Now, infrastructure. Infrastructure is everything. And we're going to talk about why National Heritage Area is our superpower in a minute. But I don't want to, the days of theorizing hypotheses, talking about the what ifs, those days have come, and we're laying the foundation and building. And infrastructure is key. Infrastructure and commerce. Hamilton foresaw an American driven by manufacturing, trade, financial markets, rather than purely agrarian pursuit. He even founded the Bank of New York to kickstart the war-torn economy. St. Croix National Heritage Area designation is our superpower. For a long time, we've been asking ourselves, what is that? Who do we want to be? And how do we create a niche for ourselves in the marketplace? The designation, there's 62 National Heritage Area in the country. There are 300 cities in America, only 62 National Heritage Area. And we are the only Caribbean American National Heritage Area. Thank you, President Joe Biden.
At this time, we want to recognize the outstanding work being done by the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, State Historic Preservation Office, led by Director Sean Cricker and his team. Their continued dedication to preserving our historic resources and advancing the development of our National Heritage Area Plan, which started under our former Congresswoman, Donna Christensen, who's here. Big thank you to her. So we can ensure that the stories of the Virgin Islands receive the national recognition they deserve.
So, when we talk about a niche market opportunity, we have tourism in the house, and thank you guys for being here. They're doing their job is to market and promote the territory. A niche market opportunity in cultural heritage tourism space. Cultural heritage and history tourism is a massive economic driver, accounting for roughly 40% of all global tourism activity. The global heritage tourism market is valued at over $640 billion and is projected to exceed $900 billion by early 2030. The financial and social impact of this travel sector ripple deeply into local economies. And when we talk about how it's going to impact us, these are salient points that speaks to that. The economic footprint and travel behavior. Higher spend, cultural and heritage tourists stay longer and spend significantly more per trip than standard leisure travelers. In the United States alone, heritage tourism generates an estimated economic impact of $123.6 billion. Demographics. The market is highly driven by the age 51 to 70 age group who possess high disposable income and prioritize experiential educational travel. Global reach. The Asian Pacific region commands the largest regional share of over 40% of the global market due to its vast array of UNESCO and World Heritage sites and robust domestic travel. So when the governor appointed me as Special Economic Envoy, he was a forward thinker, a forerunner as to how we create relationships that build this. And so with the Taiwan and the South Korea relationship, which is what we're working with right now, is going to have significant impact on that. I want to thank you for that, Governor. Community and macroeconomic benefits. Direct revenue and expenditures. Tourists inject money directly into local economies through admission fees, accommodation, dining, and transportation. Job creation. Heritage sites and cultural tours provide a massive boost to employment, supporting not just direct roles, guides, curators, but also indirect supply chains like local transportation, and hospitality. The multiplier effect. Tourist spending cycles through the local economy multiple times, supporting local supply chain and small businesses. Preservations of funding. Revenue generated by tourist expenditures such as admission fees and local taxes is often reinvested directly into the maintenance and restoration and conservation of historical landmarks. Infrastructure investment. Increased visitor numbers often incentivize government and private entities to upgrade public infrastructure, benefiting both tourists and residents. I would like to call to the podium real quickly, because this is a real case example of when we talk about the investment in infrastructure, we're not just talking about it, we're doing it right now. And I'd like to call Jamie Vanderwig. Jamie is new to the island, but if you see what she's doing at Club Comanche, I was amazed. We all know what Club Comanche is, but when I walked in, I stayed at Club Comanche for the week. That's where I've been, and I want to thank you for the hard work. But she's going to tell you what they've done so far.
Thank you, Anthony. Unlike Anthony, I'm taking my glasses off. Thank you. The Comanche Hotel and Pavilion Bar is a vital part of history, and for one of the oldest limestone and coral buildings on St. Croix, it's finding a way to bend and morph into a modern hotel with charm from yesteryear. Good evening, everyone, and my name is Jamie Vanderwedge, and I'm the general manager of the Comanche Hotel and Pavilion Bar, and I've been working relentlessly to renovate and restore the property back to its original charm. I've been a visitor to the island for the past 12 years as my daughter Lexi Wozniak went to school at the University of the Virgin Islands, graduated, and then decided to call it home. I wasn't surprised when she called me after her 4 years and told me she was staying. With just a little bit of swaying on my part, I decided to join her. And I've been here a year, only a year, and I've been working my wonders since November. Not long, but long enough to catch island fever. The Comanche Hotel has stood on this street since 1756, and that means this building was here before the United States of America. Long before the Comanche was a hotel, the site was a focal point of the bustling waterfront of Christiansted, established in 1756 near the Royal Wharf. The main building was the old doctor's house with true Danish yellow bricks and coral walls to keep the cool in the tropical heat. The bricks are from Christian's brickyard in Copenhagen, brought to St. Croix as ballast in the holds of the Danish merchant ships. And the coral was from our reef to open the channel to the fort. The architecture reflects a time when the waterfront was the economic heart of the Danish West Indies, dominated by sugar, rum, and shipping. The building has had many uses, from being a family house, dry food store, and a storage facility throughout the Danish rule from 1672 to 1917. In 1888, the Danish government established a leper hospital. It was rebuilt in 1909. After being a Danish doctor's house for almost 192 years, it finally closed, and the hotel we know today was born, Club Comanche. As the island transitioned from the structured colonial administration of the Danish West Indies to the bolstering American tourism market, the house underwent its most profound evolution. In 1948, the building traded its medicinal atmosphere for the clink of cocktail glasses as visionaries Ted Dale and Guy Reynolds transformed the former clinic into the heart of the Club Comanche. This transition didn't discard the past, but rather repurposed it, preserving the centuries-old yellow ballast bricks and mahogany timbers to provide a rugged, authentic backdrop for a new generation of travelers seeking a sophisticated island-style escape. The Comanche also has had its share of famous guests, mid-century refuge for the brilliant, eccentric, and those seeking to escape the scrutiny of the mainland for one reason or another. Robert Oppenheimer spent a significant amount of time on St. Croix prior to his permanent move. He assisted with building the Caribbean's first suspension bridge, or the Skywalk as we know it today. The iconic bridge connects the original main house and the historic Strand Street building. There is history peeking around every corner, and with every footstep, you never know whose famous steps you are retracing. Alexander Hamilton, John Wayne, Jimmy Buffett, and even Jimmy Carter and the First Lady are just a few of the famous and influential guests at the Comanche Hotel. So, how do we turn the restoration of the Comanche into a project that benefits all of St. Croix? The future of the Comanche, as I call it, the Comanche Revival, where we will build a formal Comanche heritage and revitalization initiative. The narrative becomes a story, and we are here to talk about tourism and scientific history, hotel history, Caribbean connections, cultural heritage, and even notable visitors, just to name a few. This can be housed in the Comanche Heritage Center, a small museum-quality exhibit in the lobby of our property filled with artifacts, documents and articles, photographs, records, and of course, guests and tenant stories. Picture the pool full again. I'm so excited. A day club with memberships for locals and day passes for visitors. A cigar bar and speakeasy. I know a lot of you remember all these things. A bar with live music every weekend. Rooms that tell the story of the 7 flags that have flown over this island. A museum in the foyer that brings tourists face to face with St. Croix's history. And the Oppenheimer Bridge restored. This isn't a hotel renovation. This is the revitalization of the beating heart of Christiansted. And through it, a piece of St. Croix's economy comes back with it. I'm excited to be a part of revitalizing and restoring this beautiful town, and I'd like to thank Anthony for inviting me tonight to share our exciting vision for the future. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Jamie. Now, if you notice on the big screen when you came in earlier, the governor was hosted at the New York Stock Exchange. And there's a reason for that. Some of you know back 20 years ago, the former Governor, Dr. Charles Turnbull, approved the executive order to create the Virgin Islands Stock Exchange. Unfortunately, the succeeding governor had other plans. But this governor, not only he understood the assignment and understood the future because he's an economic development person, we decided to go to the New York Stock Exchange to see firsthand the infrastructure to meet the executive folks at the New York Stock Exchange, and we came back with a new sense of hope that this can happen. I'm happy to report that as we talk about infrastructure, directly across the street is the Alexander Hamilton Building, the future home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center, better known as Third Wall Street. All of the partners, all of the investors are in place. The governor has met with them. He's excited. He's met them, shook their hands, and we're going to bring in the kind of money to invest in the infrastructure, the revitalization, the restoration, to turn the town of Christiansted into a living, walking museum. I don't care where you go around this world. You walk Christiansted and you see the architecture, it's unbelievable. And partnering with the department, the Division of Library, Archives, and Museum, we now have not only this venue as an exhibit, but the governor is going to go across the street to do a quick tour. That building also becomes an exhibit for the Alexander Hamilton. This is an opportunity zone. We're going to attract investors to invest in the United States Virgin Islands, but particularly St. Croix, to transform and to establish St. Croix as the new financial district. Okay, yeah. But we have to keep in mind, as we see the challenges and sustainability. While it provides substantial financial benefits, unregulated heritage tourism can result in site degradation. We see a lot of the dilapidated buildings, gentrifications, and the loss of local authenticity. So when we think of why we need to invest in the future, because we don't know where we're going unless we understand where we came from. As a kid, I grew up in Watergut, barefoot, scaled the fence of the wall, the hotels, and swam in their pool. That's what we did as kids. We swam to the hotel on the quay, barefoot. And so for me to be here today and to see this town what it is today and what it used to be, it breaks my heart. And I'm committed. I've committed 20 years of my life to help the transformation. And so the issue of when we talk about why we're special, the St. Croix is a home of the famous 1878 fire burn labor revolt led by a black woman. This historic rebellion fought for a better wages and working conditions. Jamie mentioned 7 flags. The island has been ruled by 7 different entities, including Denmark, France, and Great Britain. And the deep folk life, traditions like storytelling, basket weaving, herbal medicine have been passed down from West African ancestors to today's local herbalists. To cap off this information, I'm going to call up Elizabeth Renzetti to come to the podium, and she's going to capture the life of Alexander Hamilton as a boy.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. We all marvel at the distinct architecture of Christiansted, designed by Danes but interpreted by enslaved artisans, masons, carpenters, and roofers. For one moment, let us look behind the closed doors of 7 to 8 King Street in 1766. This building is just kitty corner over there across from this library and is now known as the Hamilton House. Imagine a 10-year-old boy newly arrived in St. Croix. His mother, Rachel Fawcett, has brought him to the owner of Kruger and Beekman's store, merchants of a branch of the large New York plantation supplier. Rachel herself is a customer of the Kruger and Beekman store, which was right there across from us. She buys from them wholesale goods for her own retail shop on Company Street. At this moment, we are seeing that she is firmly convincing the proprietor how capable Alexander is. She has taught him French and rudimentary accounting principles, and he reads Hebrew. She assures him, the owner, that her second son will be an asset to his business. Kruger can see that the family needs money. He hires him. Imagine the young Alexander's duties. He is a cashier taking and converting the English pounds, Spanish joes, and Danish rig dealers for merchants and planters. At the beginning of the sugar and cotton planting seasons, Alexander helps their overseers outfit and renew the estate's supply of field implements, machetes, bills, hoes, rakes for their enslaved to use in their fields. And twice a year, Alexander, with the assistance of Kruger's trusted enslaved employee, they walked to the wharf to meet the company's ship. They guide a small convoy of chained and shackled captive Africans up King Street to the large courtyard behind the store. These captives have already been ordered and purchased. They now need to be prepared to look their best for delivery to Crucian planters and merchants. For the night, Alexander settles them into the small rooms of 23 King Cross Street attached to the store. Hamilton is learning firsthand the economics of a slave society, the dealing with international planters and merchants and their currencies. He has observed the handling of the dejected, dehumanized Africans. As you pass 7-8 King Street in your daily life, I ask you to think of all that went into this property in the 7 years when Alexander Hamilton absorbed life in Christiansted. He remarked, quote, "This was one of the best education anyone could have ever had." Thank you.
So now, I'd like to invite our special guest keynote speaker to the podium. Oh, you here? And I want to say special thank you because you are the governor's director for Library, Archive, and Museum.
I think his favorite.
Oh, really? And I'm excited to partner with you. Like I said, for this, if it wasn't for this governor, I don't believe I would have made the kind of progress I've made so far.
I wouldn't have.
So it is my pleasure, as a way to honor this governor, because as quiet as it's kept, his legacy is going to be cemented for generations to come. St. Croix, I promise you, will be the center of international trade and finance. St. Croix is going to be the financial hub where countries, governments, corporations from around the world are going to come to St. Croix to raise capital. And let me just invite our honorable governor, Albert Bryan Jr., for his keynote speech.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you everyone for coming out to here today. One second. Yeah, I look about as tired as I feel. It's been a long week. Actually, it's been a long, 9 years. I want to say good afternoon to everyone and thank you for coming out. You know, people always ask me, they always go and say, why do you support Anthony Weeks? It's like, you know, I said, and I always say, because we got a lot of different people in this community, but we don't have a lot of big thinkers. We don't have a lot of creative people. And you know, there's nothing in this world that's remarkable that wasn't created by somebody who everybody thought was crazy. Think about it. I mean, the first person to build a metal ship or to fly in the air, to have a concept that the world was round. Oh my God, crazy. Are we gonna go to the moon? All these people thought they were crazy first. And we go through life every day with truly remarkable people who talk about ideas. And Tony is one of those people. He introduces me to the most remarkable people. And I always ask him, how do you know this person? I mean, I'm the governor of the Virgin Islands, right? This dude took me to the stock exchange and introduced me to the president of the stock exchange and the mayor of New York in the same fell swoop. I mean, I have pictures to prove this. So when he brings ideas to me, I am that audacious person that always says, let's try it. Let's do it. What can it hurt? And I think, especially St. Croix, you know, living here for 40-something years now, I think we need to do that a lot more. I think we need to say, let's try it a lot more. Like, let's do it. Like, when people bring things to me, I never look for a reason to say no. I always look for a reason to say yes. Because if it doesn't cost me anything, just try. And, you know, when he was speaking, it took me back in time a little bit. I see my good friend Donna Christian back there, to the first Great Recession, the dot-com crash in 9/11, when St. Croix was like so desperate. We didn't know we didn't have any airlift, we didn't have any hotels. Well, after Hugo, people thought it was a bad time, but St. Croix really had a lot of boom around after Hugo because it was a lot of FEMA dollars, and then we started building the Cat Cracker, and you know, we had Hovensa and everything, but After 9/11, it really dried up and it really got bad. And everybody was thinking about how we're going to save the economy. Turnbull was a governor back then. We had a $150 million deficit. Turnbull couldn't figure out how to put together enough money to get to a $400 million budget. Our budget is $1.7 billion today for 85,000 people. It's insane. We've grown our GDP 25% in the last couple of years alone. I mean, that's remarkable in terms of when you talk about the growth. The progress we have seen in St. Croix, we've gone from like 30,000 tourists coming on cruise ships to 250,000 people. And like I tell people, I'm so busy working, right? I was sitting at the airport and I was like, why is there a United sign up there? I didn't even realize St. Croix had a direct flight from Chicago to the Virgin Islands. I was like, wow, we ain't doing too bad. And then a couple of weeks ago, the first time in 34 years, we have a flight from Newark, from the East Coast, direct to St. Croix. Incredible. So Comanche, make room. We got a lot of people coming. I say that to say that in modern history, in the last 50 years or so that I've been here, I've seen a lot. But as I get older and I delve into history, you see more, and I'm truly start to get fascinated with our total history, because our story begins in Africa. You know, there was people were freaking out. Well, I don't think people were freaking out. The Daily News or the Daily Nuisance was freaking out because I went to Ghana. But you, to understand how resilient a people we are, you have to start there and figure out these ships that brought the ballast from Denmark with the bricks that we walk on every day, like the young lady just shared with us, also brought us to this island to work. And even before we came, I mean, St. Croix is one of the few places that Columbus actually set foot on in the New World. The Christian state is older than like 99% of the cities in the entire America. And it's only when Tony Weeks told me, he said, you know, remember we're a national heritage area. I totally forgot about it, that we were, you know. But it's a privilege to stand here and talk about a history that reflects, as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of America. We've only been Americans for about 110 years. And it's never so evident as when you go to the African American Museum of History. After we land as enslaved Africans, Virgin Islanders disappear until 1917, almost 300 years later. Our legacy is totally different. I don't even think our school children understand that Juneteenth has absolutely nothing to do with us. We celebrate it because we have our kin in the States and everything that have been through that. But our experience is a very different experience. So today it's a privilege to stand before you as we celebrate National Heritage Area and Founders Day, something that this administration declared. An occasion that reminds us that St. Croix is not simply a beautiful place. It's a place that helped shape history. I mean, not in a little way, like in a major way. As our nation commemorates America's 250th, the anniversary of the foundings of the United States, we are also reminded that the story of America cannot be fully told without our story, without the story of the Virgin Islands, and particularly without the story of St. Croix. Our island has long been a crossroads of culture, commerce, innovation, resilience, and freedom. It is the birthplace of an extraordinary story that continues to influence our nation today. We proudly recognize Alexander Hamilton, whose early years on St. Croix helped shape one of America's founding fathers and his first Secretary of the Treasury. His remarkable journey reminds us that greatness can emerge from even the smallest of islands when talent is met with opportunity. But our history is far more than one individual. This national heritage area preserves the stories of our ancestors, the people whose labors built economies, whose courage challenged injustice, and whose determination forever changed the course of Virgin Islands and global history. Emancipation Day, our Juneteenth, when thousands gathered at Fort Frederick demanding what should never have been denied, freedom. Their courage culminated in the historic declaration that all unfree in the Danish West Indies are from today free. That victory not only belongs to the Virgin Islands, but to the universal story of humanity's pursuit of liberty and justice. It is fitting that as America celebrates its founding ideals of freedom and independence, we also celebrate those who fought to make those ideals a reality here in our islands. The designation of St. Croix as America's first national heritage area in a United States territory. That's a big deal, like Joe would say, because he gave it to us. It's a big effing deal. It's an honor and a responsibility. It recognizes that our landscapes, our culture, our architecture, our traditions, and our people are treasures of national significance. And it's playing so well because in the last 3 years, we've acquired Mount Eagle, all of Maroon Ridge. We're about to acquire all of Great Pond, a lot of places. In Hogansburg, we acquired that too. All of the Diageo warehouses, and a lot more land in St. Thomas and St. John and on the Keys too, creating the Virgin Islands Territorial Park, something that was never done before. We actually have a park superintendent now who is there organizing the cutting of trails through all these parks, especially in Maroon Ridge, and we continue to add land as we go along. I'm just talking about the land that was added in St. Croix, not the land that was added totally. We now get up to $800,000 a year because we have a territorial park. And when our plan for the territorial park is finished, which we had some delays, that's another $1.5 million to be dedicated to that. So the places like the tide pools and the sugar mills will forever be safe from harm. The Virgin Islanders could forever walk those trails just like our national parks that they don't give us access to. It also commits us to preserving the treasures not simply for tourists to admire, but for our children to inherit. Later this year, we are trying to do it this summer. I'm taking about 30 kids from St. Thomas. I'm bringing them to St. Croix and joining 30 kids from St. Croix to tour this island. Now, I have the privilege of knowing all 3 islands like the back of my hand, and I would challenge anybody. I think I'm the best tour guide, territorial tour guide in the whole land. People, when my friends come, they go, you gotta give the tour. And then I'm gonna take 30 kids from St. Croix over to St. Thomas and St. John for 2 days and let them experience the history and the tradition of St. Thomas and St. John. I mean, St. John is a 75% national park, and 90% of Virgin Islanders have never been to St. John. We're ruling on some stuff for Water Island, the development over there. Most people haven't been to Water Island. This is a very eclectic group, so I know y'all been. How many people been to Monk's Bat, Caledonia, the tide pools, Jack's Bay, Isaac's Bay, the bioluminescence pool? Yeah, I know y'all would be in there. But that's not a common experience in St. Croix. If I gave a Crucian a tour when I had some people in it, and they were visiting with a Crucian who happened to be working for them in Boston. And I had some time. This is when I was a labor commissioner. And I said, you know what, let me give you a tour. I'll give you a tour. The Crucian asked the most questions. They were like, what? I didn't know that. I didn't point you out. I didn't know that was an interior secretary So our history is an economic asset. You know, I've been to what's St. Augustine in Florida. It's also a national heritage area, and thousands of tourists come there to tour around. And we pass these buildings every day. But our history strengthens tourism. It creates educational opportunities. It encourages preservation. It inspires investment. It strengthens our identity as Virgin Islanders. And I want to recognize that the Virgin Islands Historic and Preservation Office, our historians, our preservation advocates, educators, volunteers, and everyone whose dedication made this designation possible and continues the important work of protecting our heritage. I want to single out our former Congress lady because she was pivotal in getting this done. So thank you, Donna, for making sure. You know, she does it very quietly, and she's an example to me and a role model to me, because you don't have to be elected to effectuate change in the Virgin Islands. You know, after your time as a politician is done, and bet you by golly mine done in January, done. You could still do things to help our community move along. So she's been giving us help in healthcare and in advocacy and our history and making sure and introduce. Up to now, when I go to Congress, people ask me about, you know, your Congresswoman, Donna Christensen. So great, and thank you for all you do for Virgin Islanders. As governor, I've always believed that preserving our past is essential to building our future. Today, we celebrate not only what happened here centuries ago, but what can happen here in the years ahead when we value our history. When we can recognize that this little boy at 10 years old was a founding father of the nation. The Fish and Fungi boy is one of the top 10 NBA players ever. And we have so many stories of liberation, freedom, and excellence from our shores. We can do things like bring a stock exchange. We can attract world investment. We can build World Trade Centers here in St. Croix. But we have to believe it. And we have to be able to talk about our island in pride. Let this observance inspire each of us to visit our historic sites, to teach our children the stories of this land, and protect our cultural resources, and to ensure that future generations understand that Virgin Islands has and always been and will continue to be an indispensable part of the American story. I want to end and close in saying that when Aaliyah, who is now, wow, she's almost 29, don't tell her I told you how old she is. When Aaliyah was small, we went to Carambola one day because I can't remember what school project we were working on, but we were waiting. So we walked around and I started asking her, what's the name of the plants? What's the name of the fruit trees? What's the name of this? And she didn't know anything. And I realized that I was failing as a parent. That if we really want our children to understand and honor our history, we have to tell them about it. We have to let them experience it. So generation now, we went back and I told Adrian Williams, who now runs Office of Disaster Recovery, I said, you know, we need to create a program called 100 Kids on Culture. And what we're going to do is we're going to take them every weekend and expose them to different things in the Virgin Islands. And that's what we did. We teach them how to make Johnny cake and stuff. And if you realize and you talk to young people, even the art of cooking is dying in our community. The things that we really, really like. And, you know, I say it every fair day and every festival in jest. You know, St. Croix used to be the king of culinary in the Virgin Islands, but we sleeping. It ain't tasting as good as it used to taste. You can't use imitation crab meat to make crab and rice. You got to go catch and podge. We have to, and especially, and I see, you know, there's a bunch of young people in here. I don't see anybody over 30. But for people like me who are older, we have to tell our stories. We have to tell our stories. You know, our children, our grandchildren, they think we've always been here. They don't have any recollection of how could they know about carrying bucket of water on your head, or your grandmother who used to shovel coal for pennies a day, or cutting cane. You know, I spoke to a gentleman in Atlanta, and he was telling me the story about cutting cane in St. Croix. And I said, what year you born? He's like, 1968. I was cutting cane working for Bethlehem Sugar Factory. That's how long ago and how short a time it was. The time when St. Croix had a train that used to run through the island picking up cane. Some of you are like, wow, St. Croix had a train? You know, we don't remember. People tell me about the glory days of Frederickstead. For as long as I can remember, only thing I had in Frederickstead was tumbleweed. But before that, there was a time when town was thriving. People don't remember, I grew up in Savannah. We had 8 shops in Savannah, 8 family businesses selling. There's 0 now. There's nothing. Everybody to go to the big grocery stores. I remember when Woolworth and Kmart came. Now they're gone. The world has changed tremendously. So we have to relate those stories, and those, I see Jimmy back there, Mike up here, of Riptide and Handos and Grandstand Play, of Frank's on the corner, of going to Scooters, you know, and going all the way. What I want to name it was, I know all the party places because I partied all high school. Those are the stories, because, you know, when children complain about where we are, they cannot appreciate where we've been. Today we celebrate Alexander Hamilton, a national heritage area in St. Croix. But every day we write the history of these great territories. And one day, 200 years from now, they're going to talk about this crowd sitting here, setting this date. Thank you very much for your attention. Love you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Governor. I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to serve as your Director of Libraries, Archives, and Museums. Just today alone, we've had over 120 children in this library. Okay, that was just a few hours ago. And then look now, look around at the proud Crucians that are here. You know, I'm just proud. I'm a Crucian by choice. You know, I choose to be here. This is our home. And the fact that everybody cares enough to come. And I want to thank Anthony. Today, Anthony did 2 workshops with children on Alexander Hamilton's history. And it was great, you know. And our partnership, you know, he's going to be doing financial workshops out of the library. You know, the library is just more than a place to come and get information. This is your community anchor. And we're built for things like this. If you have ideas of what you want to do, be like Anthony, reach out, partner. We have a lot of good things that are coming. I need to thank VINGN for totally helping us out. Thank you, Daryl. So we have free Wi-Fi. That's one of the things the governor did, from shore to shore in every island, and thank you for that. Anthony, thank you for this partnership. Thank you, Department of Tourism. There is a wonderful block party out there. Jessica in the back from Caribbean Food Network has Chef Jamal, who's going to be doing food demonstration in here. There's a floating violinist. There's Rising Star Steel Pan. And if anybody doesn't have a library card, come see me.
Jessica, real quick, tell people what they can expect for the food demonstration.
Hi, I'm Jessica Kyler. Come on, Jamal. Jamal is like my favorite chef on St. Croix. Him and I have been together. We've been working together for like 10 years. When he had B&B. Remember the lobster macaroni and cheese?
J&B Diners.
So I'm Jessica Kyler, Caribbean Food Network, Taste of the Virgin Islands. So every week we feature different restaurants here in the territory. We're on ABC and CBS. So Jamal and I featured 2 dishes. So you can find us on ABC, like I said, CBS. But tell them about what's going on with your restaurant after your fried chicken or your fried rice.
Oh my gosh. Okay, greetings. Greetings, everybody. My name is Chef Jamal, no stranger here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Bon Crucian.
Yeah.
I'm the CEO and actually owner of Wakami Island Sushi Bar and Restaurant that is on the boardwalk, right there with the old, you know, the Holger Dance Hotel, the Holger Dance, which was the old Angry Nate's, exactly. All right. So we did air this series. I did my award-winning fried rice by her house. So amazing, man. And let me tell you, after that, I'm on the streets everywhere, lineman, doing my thing, making sure I get my things from my restaurants. I'm at Quality every morning, shopping. And then tons of people are just like stopping me and telling me like, hey, man, haven't you seen yourself on TV? I didn't see that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that network that you're doing is actually giving us that exposure. You know what I mean? And I've been seeing my restaurant just really new faces every single day. So I want to thank you and congratulate you at the same time too. And I want to thank you, St. Croix. This year for Taste of St. Croix, we actually took home all the awards,
We did good.
which was really great, you understand? So I'm born cruising, I'm not leaving here, and I'm going to try my best to keep the culture alive. All right? One love.
So today, Jamal, we're doing an on-point food demonstration. And he thought, he put a lot of thought into this, right? So let's talk about our recipe today.
Okay. Greetings. Today now, we're going to do a little twist and keep it more Crucian. So we're going to do a Crucian mahi-mahi today. So we have a lot of mahi-mahi everywhere, man. But we're going to do a twist with basically a plantain mashed potato. We have a lot of plantain everywhere. Top with a nice mango, pineapple, pico de gallo, salsa. Drizzle with some truffle oil. That is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to do a little demo, and we have a little bit of samples for everyone to try.
And you can find all these recipes on our website. So we'll have our website up here. Jen, will you bring the board for us? Yep. And thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, so that brings us to the end of the program. I want to thank you for coming out, but I also want to thank a couple of people. I'm going to embarrass him in a minute, just now. Kenny Schuster, thank you so much. The reason we're here, because Kenny one day said to me, Anthony, have you thought about the library to partner with? And the reason we're here is because Kenny, this was your idea. I want to thank you for that, Kenny. I want to thank my lady, Arlene Armstrong, the decoration that you see in here. Arlene put it together. Thank you, Arlene. I want to thank my brother, Miles, because whenever I call him, he's there. Thank you, Miles, always showing up. Appreciate it. So, as we close out the program, it's kind of scary how the governor and I are always on the same page. So, when we discussed this event with him, what I didn't expect, because he and I never spoke about this, he said, man, let me to a block party afterwards. I said, wow. Here's why it's scary. Because every year, what people don't realize, by his declaration and proclamation of a National Heritage Area Day and Founders Day, it doesn't exist in America. There's 62 National Heritage Area. There's no unified collective National Heritage Area Day. This governor embraced that idea. So every year, as we create in June, National Caribbean Heritage Month, the last week every year, St. Croix is going to be the place to be. Why? Because we're going to celebrate everything art, culture, history, heritage. And this street that you see here, coming from the library, going all to the waterfront, is going to be food and a music concert at the end. So when the governor said, let's throw a block party, I said, oh my God, this is scary. Because this is what this is going to represent for St. Croix. People are going to come from all over the place because he introduced the first National Heritage Area Day and Founders Day, and we're going to collaborate with other National Heritage Area. Thank you, Governor.
The photographer. Also, we want to thank Government House for all the support that they've given us. We have a master photographer, Eddie White. You can see his work right here. We have a lot of great artwork displayed throughout the library. We're always trying to get new people and patrons to come in, so I just wanted to point him out and say thank you. We'll see everybody outside.
Yes. So the block party, the food demonstration inside, the block party outside, lots of fun activity outside. The governor, we're going to take the governor over. I see Todd Newman in the building. Todd, thank you so much. Todd is the owner of the property, and we're going to take the governor to over there where we're going to show him the portrait of Alexander Hamilton and the new exhibit gallery as well. So thank you for coming. Appreciate it.